Yeah, we had one night where if our dumbasses in the talk, if they would have given us the accurate information, I would have blown away the Prince of Kuwait with 50 cal.
3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the sixth episode of The Way of El Marco. We have a special guest, our very first squid, ladies and gentlemen. Please give it up for Nick Doria.
Thanks, Rick. Good to be here.
Yeah, buddy. For the people at home who don't know why I called him a squid, is well, because Nick was in the Navy, right? And if I'm not mistaken, let's see. You also guys, you call your basic training, you guys call it boot camp, right?
Yep.
And don't they like force you guys to watch Anchors Away while you're going through the gas chamber?
Uh, Not my recollection of it. I know we used to say it. There used to be a tunnel that like would go underneath the road that would go between like where our training classes were, and then in between like where our barracks were and where the training classes were was like I don't even remember. It was probably like a mile to like a 2 mile march. But every single time we went under that tunnel, we had to do anchors away. So it would like echo through there. So we
Oh my
weren't forced
god,
to watch anchors away, but we had to do it every single time walking underneath that tunnel in formation.
dude. Oh my god. Okay, fucking A. So you have no idea. Like for years, I've been like dropping that Anchors Away joke, right? Going like they must be doing something like that with the Navy, and finally it got confirmed. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Thank you. My god. Okay, so all right, so that's funny that they have you guys do that. All right, so how long were you in the Navy?
Just 4 years.
4 years, and when were you in?
2007 to 2011. So 7-11.
Seven. There you go.
I actually got out 7-11, 2011, which is kind of funny.
Now, did you like your time in the Navy?
Uh, Mixed. Looking back at it now, I definitely don't mind background noise. I had a, it's like a mixed kind of experience, right? Like looking back at it now, I have a lot of fond memories of it, but there were definitely, some shit mixed in between, right?
Mhm. Absolutely.
But I don't regret doing it. Um, Everything happened for a reason, so
Mhm.
like it definitely was a good thing. I actually almost made a mistake though and joined the army.
Nice. I almost made a mistake, Joe.
Well, the reason why I say that and what makes it really funny, the reason why I did join the army was because I was like, fuck man, I want to go to the Middle East. Like I'd like to be able to travel a little bit, right? Like maybe go to a couple ports and stuff like that. That'd be pretty sick. And then on top of that, like my family has a history of people joining the Navy as well. So like all my uncles did it. My dad was the only one who didn't go. So the combination of those two things was like, well, like it's not really a tradition thing, but it's kind of almost like passing the torch, I guess. I don't know. And then the fact was like, I would rather not have the chance of possibly getting shot at if I can avoid it. Um, is some people run towards that. Others are like, well, maybe not so much. I mean, if it happens, it happens, but
All right.
willingly not going to be a bullet sponge. But as fate would have it, um, got in, I lost I literally like 2 weeks in a boot camp. I literally lost everything. I lost my A school. I lost my rate because some bitch was having a bad day and said I was colorblind. So I lost my bonus. I lost my rating. I was
What?
undesignated.
What?
Yep. So that was my introduction into the Navy. So I had a and
Oh
then my
man.
recruiter was actually supposed to submit paperwork for me to come in as an E3 because I was in a delayed entry program. That didn't happen either. So I was an E1. So my introduction to the Navy was a giant kick in the balls. I'm like, man, what the fuck am I doing here? So But fortunately, it doesn't get better. I was undesignated. They told me I could either choose undesignated or choose like bosun's mate and a couple other rates. I was like, nah, I don't like any of those. I'll just take my chances as undesignated. Smart decision because it led me to San Diego, which is a pretty awesome duty station. I would have absolutely hated the military if I was in Virginia because they're all tightwads in Virginia. Um, San Diego, like California Navy, is a lot more laid back and kind of chill. To where Virginia, they're very like uptight and by the book and only by the book kind of thing. And ugh, that would have sucked.
So that's a thing then, as far as East Coast, West Coast Navy and that kind of a thing.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. That's pretty funny. So originally, I see you're wearing a Cleveland Cincinnati Browns hat. Is that a what the fuck are you wearing? So that's a C. Cincinnati Reds.
Chicago, man.
Jesus, dude.
Bears.
Oh my God, I'm so bad. I'm so bad. All
But
right.
I can see how you'd make that mistake because the Cincinnati Reds is that C, but no, it's Bears.
Okay, it's the Bears. All right. So are you originally from Illinois or where? Gotcha. Oh,
Yeah, I'm
dude.
originally from a little town called Homewood that probably nobody knows.
Homewood. How many people live in
Or,
Homewood?
sorry, Glenwood.
Glenwood?
Homewood is a town most people know, or like Tinley Park. I don't know how many people are there, but not a large, just like your typical suburban town. A little bit
So,
outside of Chicago.
okay, gotcha. How old were you when you joined the Navy?
How old was I?
Yeah.
I signed up before I my senior year. So from like 19 to like 22 or 23 is when I was in.
Gotcha, dude. Okay, so it was one of those things where you're like, get me the fuck out of here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, similar to my experience. So I was just like, I can't wait. I
Yeah.
actually I tricked my mom into signing paperwork because I was 17, and I was like, I'm gonna get the fuck
Wouldn't even
out of
sign
here,
it.
dude.
She wouldn't sign mine. I'm like, well, I'm just telling you, like, it's going to happen regardless. So you
That's
can either
right.
sign it now
Yeah.
or I'm doing it like 2 days after I'm 18. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah. Right. Right. So that must have been like really cool for you to, be from Glenwood, that's in Illinois, right? Where you've got um, I, I was when I was a kid, I visited Chicago once and it was fucking cold. I remember that just being fucking cold. And so now you end up in San Diego. Were you in San Diego the whole 4 years?
Yeah, I was pretty fortunate.
Wow.
Some people get 2-year billets, which is like the term for non-military people, of like how long you're stationed somewhere. I
Yeah.
was there for the whole 4 years. Now, I wasn't in San Diego the whole 4 years because building back onto the irony of me not joining the army is my first deployment took me to an army base in Kuwait. Literally the thing I was trying not to be
And
at
which army
Kuwait.
base in Kuwait was that?
So what?
And which army base in Kuwait was that?
Camp Patriot,
Camp Patriot. There you go.
Lowe's. Um, and it was army people, and the army people that were on that base, man, I don't know where they were from, but they give some Marines a run for their money in terms of IQ points. It was rough.
Yeah, yeah, some pretty dumb dudes are in the Marines and Army, man. So all the smarter guys end up going into the Navy, and then the really smart guys end up going
Air
into the Air
Force.
Force or now Space Force, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Like there were some cool army guys, but it was very slim there. And then they left, and we got some like a battalion or squadron or something from Hawaii, and those boys could cook.
Oh, really?
That was nice.
Nice.
But the
Nice.
first group, it was like, oh my God, it was bad. The
Uh,
cooking was bad. Like it was all bad. And the problem with Kuwait was it wasn't necessarily dangerous. It was just so fucking boring.
hmm.
And there was nothing to do.
How long were you
It
there?
was either work out
Hmm.
or like play video games or something. Like if you didn't have shit to do, because we had watch, but we had it on a rotation where you'd like work 3 days in a row, and then it'll be off like 1 or 2 days. But we couldn't fucking leave base.
Oh,
We did not get to leave because we were Navy. We weren't out there doing like ground patrols. What we would do, we would, leave the base, excuse me, or in our case, depending on what rotation you were on, you didn't even get to leave the base when you went to work. You just went to like the pier.
that's so. I remember one day I asked on Facebook, I wanted to see how many people, as far as my sales buddies, right, were vets, right? And I remember you were one of the guys that chimed in, and you showed the type of boat that you were on,
Yeah.
right? Like, like, did it have like a 50 cal or 25 millimeter?
So it had a 50 cal on the front, and then two 240s on the port and starboard side, which is left and right side for non-Navy people.
Oh yeah, can you explain that again? Yeah. So right side is what again?
Uh, Fuck, now you're testing me. Port, I think. It's been a long time since I've had to bring that up.
Hey, keep in mind the reason why I'm asking you this is because I'm a huge fan of Star Trek,
Hmm.
right? And that's pretty much, Navy and
So you
space.
you actually know port and starboard then, because they say that in that show, don't they?
They do, dude, but they never like explain it. So that's why I was asking, like, which side,
Yeah.
what side's
Um,
port, starboard?
Port, I believe, is right side, if my memory serves me right, and then left is starboard, if I remember correctly.
Now,
Or it's the other way around. I don't remember which is bad.
well, we could ask Chat GPT later. So my question is this, right? Why are they called that? Why starboard and port? Like when they say port, are they referring to the port hole? And then starboard, are they referring to like that's where I can see the stars? Because the
Uh,
Navy,
Maybe
like the Army, is an ancient tradition that goes,
I could see that being the reason. Kind of like they call the floor the deck,
yeah,
and like a water fountain isn't a water fountain, it's a scuttlebutt.
a
It's like, really, you couldn't
scuttlebutt,
call it something else?
a scuttlebutt.
Yes. I'm like, guys, we're not helping ourselves here.
No wonder those jokes are just about. I mean, it's
Yeah,
already it's already bad enough, and then they call the bathroom the head, right?
yeah.
And then walls are called bulkheads,
Yep.
right? Okay. So then, well, so what was the name of that boat you were on? What do you call it?
So I was on a 34-foot patrol boat.
Yeah.
It was Sea Arcs was like the brand of the boat. So I was different. And this is where I got fortunate. You've got brown water Navy, and then you've got blue water. Blue water is the fleet, like the aircraft carriers, the destroyers, the frigates, traditional Navy that I would have absolutely hated and probably got myself kicked out if I was on that side of the Navy because I did a tour on a boat. I'm like, no fucking way.
Why, dude?
Because you're like packed into this tight ass space like a pack of sardines. Like you can't get away. You're stuck. There's like no space. And I'm not the tallest guy in the world, but I'm tall enough to find every fucking low pipe
Yeah.
and smash the shit out of my head on it.
So being on a submarine was definitely a no go.
Absolutely not. When I got out, they tried to send me I got like a piece of direct mail from the Navy saying, "Hey, you could be a nuclear officer." I'm like, "Hey, no, I can't because I'm not going to be on a sub." Like, nice try though.
So to add further to the jokes of the Navy, you're like there's blue water and then there's the brown water Navy, and so the brown water is basically like the PT boats in Nam and what you were
Yeah,
doing as far as like
like
essentially.
SEAL, your Navy SEALs, SWIC, and then we fall below that. Is we
Gotcha.
were not SEALs by any means. We were not SWIC, but we were more so like a river unit. That's actually the best way to classify like the type of unit I was in. So it was unique because I had to learn weapon systems. I had to know like mechanical stuff. Had to go know navigation, and then I also had to understand how to drive the boat.
Yeah.
So the person that drove the boat in the Navy is called a coxswain. Another weird name, but terminology is not their strong point in terms of
The Isn't that the same name for the dude in the he's all stroke? Is that, or is it the coxswain or coxman? The same guy, right?
Yeah, coxswain is what they call
They call him
the guy
so
that drives the boat.
so there's something with the word cox, cox, right? Cox, not cock.
Yeah, no, not cock.
It's a cockman.
Yeah, no, it's interesting the way they chose the terminology, but that was kind of so it was interesting. So on a boat, we would have four people to a crew. You would have your coxswain, then you'd have your RTO slash navigator, then your two guys would be your crew served weapons guys. So one would be forward, which is front of the boat, and then aft is back of the boat. So the guy in the forward is going to light people up with a 50 or make them disappear into mist with a 50 if
Yeah,
you can hit them. The shooting a 50 cal on a boat on the water is not an easy thing to do.
I can imagine.
Very hard. And then a 240 is hard too, but it's a little bit easier.
Right. Yeah. Wow, only four guys. Did you guys have any well, the 240, are you talking about 240 like a 240 machine gun, or are you talking about a grenade
Yeah,
launcher?
machine
Two,
gun.
240 machine, right? Do you
We
guys
uh we could have had a grenade launcher on the back of the boat, but our CO wasn't fun and didn't let us have one.
he's like, sorry guys, we're not
Yeah,
gonna
so
do
we would
that.
have had a 203, I think, grenade launcher in the back, and they're like, no, it's like, fuck, really?
That would have been hilarious, dude. So Camp Patriot, you were on a ship, and so you actually did a deployment on some blue water. What kind
Yeah.
of what kind of
So,
ship was that?
well, no, I
Oh,
was
you never did.
never.
Oh,
So brown water, when they deploy, they're land and water. So
ah,
we were on the land, but when we worked, we were on the water.
gotcha.
So, and that's where it's kind of like even an interesting part of like being on the brown water side because we didn't do like field ops. We trained in field ops,
Mm,
but we didn't actually do like land navigation exercises like where you go on patrol. But we had to train in that because that was part of what our capability or mission readiness was if it came up. So we had
wow.
to know water and we had to know land stuff. So I
It,
went to school. You might have actually went to this ECS, Expeditionary Combat School. You may or may not have gone to that, but it's a base in Gulfport, Mississippi, and
I
they
did not.
teach a course there.
I was infantry, and my training was over in Fort Benning, Georgia, and then I was stationed over in Savannah with the Third ID, and then and this was back in 94, 97, right? So I was in between the Gulf Wars, um, and then I spent a summer in Kuwait, and so I was over in Camp Doha, and yeah, it was hot,
Hot,
boring,
yeah.
lots of jerking
On the
off.
fuck, man, on the water, it was so fucking hot because we didn't have air conditioning on the boats either,
Oh no, I mean that would be. Why should you?
right? I mean, that only makes sense to actually do that. So like we're sitting there waiting for somebody to attack, and like there were definitely some days to where like you just wake up and like everybody's just irritating you, and you just wake up and you're like, man, I wish a motherfucker would.
Right.
I
Right.
wish a motherfucker would.
Right. I think that's part of it, right? They're like, we got to keep the guys irritated. So let's not put AC in these things, right? Let's keep them pissed. I
Yeah,
think that's going to
well,
be key.
we had a Hispanic dude on our boat, and he's like, hey, I got an idea. We're like, what? It's like shut all the windows. We're like, are you fucking crazy? He's like, just trust me. So we shut all the windows for like 35 minutes. We're just roasting in this cabin, like just sweat pouring down us. And then after that, we opened all the windows. He's like, yeah, dude, it's Mexican AC. And I'm like, all right, I like it. That only worked like three times.
Yeah.
After that, it was like, bro, I'd rather just sit here and be miserable instead of feeling like death for 20 minutes for like a moment of relief. Because
Yeah.
after that moment of relief hits,
Yeah.
it's like 10 times worse
Yeah.
afterwards. It's like, oh,
Yeah, man. It was. That's the thing I remember. The heat. There was nothing like it. We landed there April 2nd, and it was 2 or 3 in the morning, and just on the tarmac, and it was just fucking 110, 115 or some crazy bullshit like that.
Yep.
And Sergeant Ford, he's just like, I'm looking for volunteers who wants to be my driver. And at that point, I was on the ground. I was a saw gunner, my small ass, right? And I'm like, I'll be a driver. Fuck this. It's just like, get me out of this crap, man. And so now, next question, and the military has been known to be the most athletic drunks around, and
Yes.
and that was definitely one of my things, man. I fucking drank, and I smoked cigarettes while I was in. Did you get into that?
Yeah, man. So funny story about how that whole Kuwait deployment, uh, ties into like aging, right? So I joined when I was 19. And like you kind of, it's almost like you have to drink to be able to handle the gratuitous amounts of bullshit that you have to deal with on a daily basis. To
Oh
where like
yeah.
I wouldn't drink during the week because like I still got to be responsible and get my shit done. But man, on a Friday or Saturday night, yeah, it we went hard. And the department that I was in predominantly because I was undesignated, um, is bosun's mates, which is basically the Navy's version of infantry. Usually, it's the lowest hanging fruit,
Yeah.
but they're the hardest working people,
Sure.
but they also party the hardest.
Oh yeah.
And that was the group that I was put into. So by association, it just kind of happened. So like I spent 2 years getting a stupid good tolerance. Then they're like, hey, we're getting deployed. I'm like, all right, when are we getting deployed? They're like, oh, we're getting deployed like August 14th. I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me. A week before my 21st birthday. 1 week. So we land like 2 days before my birthday, and they open the fucking cabin, and I feel the heat immediately hit my forehead. And I'm not in the front of the airplane either. I'm way in the back. I'm like, oh my God. And then they asked us, they're like, hey, we need some volunteers. Well, me being young, dumb, stupid, and ambitious, I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Well, our volunteer wasn't to drive. Our volunteer was to unload all the fucking bags in the goddamn boat on the fucking airplane. You know how fucking hot it was in there, and you're lifting everybody's shit. So like, fucking dying. Like 3 minutes in the Kuwait, I'm like, fuck.
Dude.
It's the God, man, the cargo space in the plane, that fucking shit had to be in like 200 degrees.
Oh, I bet. I
It
believe it.
was unbelievable.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it. It's so ungodly hot in that country. People, I think the best way for people to actually experience it is just take a fucking blow dryer, turn it on, and just put it at your face.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
tell people to put their oven on max and just stick their head in the oven.
yeah, yeah. And then light the light.
And then add 100% humidity because I was by the water. So
Oh
not
yeah,
only did we have the
being by
heat,
the
we had the
water is just
water.
even worse, dude. Yeah, even worse. So speaking of the water, did you guys have any run-ins with Navy SEALs or anything like that? Because I know you and I we joked about Jocko, Saint Jocko, and he's a patron saint of the Navy and all that. So like, would you guys like have posters of Jocko up, or what was the deal?
No, Junko wasn't even it wasn't a known dude
Not
at
yet.
that time.
Gotcha.
'Cause that was back in 2011. But where I was stationed was right where was Coronado. Like my
Hmm.
barracks room was right across from where they had Hell Week,
Oh
like right
shit.
across from where the SEALs training, excuse me, was. So all the Buds guys would, be doing crazy shit at random times, at random hours. There was a couple times I couldn't sleep and I woke up at like 3:30 in the morning, and these dudes are carrying the Zodiac boats over their shoulders, freezing their balls off. I'm like, man,
Yeah, no shit, right?
like I'm good. And like I had people when I first got in because I used to do cross country and I'm just kind of built like a runner. So like I was younger and in shape because I was like, well, I don't know what the military is gonna bring. So I used to play soccer and I was playing cross country to be in better shape for soccer. So like I'm not very athletically inclined, but I can run. So we would like run and they're like, dude, you should be a SEAL. I'm like, why? They're like, because you can run easily. I was like, dude, I fucking can't swim. Are you crazy? But I joined the Navy.
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
to make it even worse, I'm on a 34-foot boat, which you can get thrown off easily, which I had a couple calls where I probably should have, and I'm very lucky.
So do you feel, I mean, did you have any close run-ins while you were in during your time?
Yeah, we had one night where if our dumbasses in the talk, if they would have given us the accurate information, I would have blown away the Prince of Kuwait with 50 cal. That would have been bad.
What do you think would have happened to you if you did?
I don't know, but I might not be having this conversation, but there's a good chance that one way or another my name may have came up in some news.
Stars and stripes. Fucking
Yeah, no shit. Navy Times, shit posted everywhere.
everywhere,
But
dude.
yeah, so we were doing ammo ops, which they were unloading all the ammunition that was going to like Iraq and Afghanistan. Well, we were in our security zone, making sure no bullshit happened. Now, doesn't take much imagination to figure out what could happen. Like if you shot an RPG at a boat full of fucking ammunition, it's a bad day. And that base was connected to an oil base, which is another one we did operations at. So if that ship would have got blown up, 40 miles of Kuwait would have been gone. So it was a big deal. So, we did what we were supposed to. Like I had the pins pulled. I was looking for this fucking dude. Like it wasn't like,
Fucking ready to go.
yeah, my fingers were like this. Like I was hands on looking for this motherfucker. Like not just, hey, be on the lookout. No, pull the pin, go up front, pull the pins, be ready. So
Whoa,
like
whoa.
you couldn't be any closer to actually shooting somebody than I was. If we would have had accurate information, 100% would have fired. 100%.
So what happened? What was going on? Was the Prince of Kuwait in his yacht or some shit? Like what was the deal?
It was on a jet ski.
On a jet ski. Oh shit.
Yeah. So they told us, say they told us port. Well, he was actually on starboard. And then they gave us a bearing. They said like 180 degrees. So I'm over here looking like an asshole, and I'm looking over here like an asshole. And then while I'm looking like this, he comes out of nowhere and flies right across our boat.
Wow.
Like not like right across, but probably about 400 to 500 yards away. Which, if I would have had proper time, he would have got lit the fuck up.
Wow.
And then the following, because being the military, even though it wasn't our fault for the lack of information, we got fucking grilled, absolutely reamed the next day, like just reamed. And then the prince and his dickhead friends, they had a party which was right by the base, and all these motherfuckers are riding jet skis, and they're fucking with us. They're getting in our space. So what we proceeded to do, we're like, okay, so we got screamed at for not doing our job when we were actually doing our job. The talk is a fucking idiot, which we already knew, but now they confirmed it. And then three, these assholes are getting into our space. Four, we can't shoot these guys because it would be a major international incident, even though every single one of us wants to light these guys up. And then five, we're pissed off that we got yelled at because we did what we were supposed to and it was our fault. So what we proceeded to do, so we had flares as like warning flares because we
Uh,
couldn't shoot warning shots. We went through every fucking flare we had within a 2.5 hour time span. And our chief was like, listen, guys, like, that's enough. We're like, well, you want us to be proactive, don't you? So they like grilled us for not doing our job. We're like, okay, I hear you, and we're gonna raise you 10. So we ran out of flares. We shot all of the flares at them, all of them. Every single flare we had to rotate boats in and out because we were running out of flares.
Oh my
And we were just
God.
getting all of them. We're just popping them off, popping them off, popping them off, popping them off.
That's hilarious, dude.
So it was like you get shit on, and then we're like, okay, we'll fix that.
Right, right, right. Of
And
course,
then the
of
chief is like,
course.
all right, I hear you. Your point's been made. Like, stop. It's
Right.
like, are we gonna get yelled at for them being incompetent again? He's like, no, I got you. It's like, good.
So you did 4 years, got out, right? Now you and I know each other from the sales space. You and
Yep.
I became friends through the UCM, JD Daly's mastermind, right? In that time in between the Navy and you get into sales, or were you already involved with sales? Like what was going on there?
Um, man, I've kind of been like a jack. I've been like a jack of all trades. I've done door-to-door sales at one point, selling office supplies in a decent area and in the west side of Chicago during probably the most dangerous time to be in the west side of Chicago.
So a white boy in the west side of Chicago, to be exact.
Yes, but I had to wear a suit. And I didn't just have a shit suit because when I was in Dubai, my second deployment, there was a guy that made tailor-made suits.
Oh shit.
So I bought like four tailor-made suits. So I'm like, hell yeah, I'm gonna buy a tailor-made suit. Like, so I got like four tailor-made suits for like $600. You can't even get one for like $600. It isn't even tailored in the US. So like, of course I'm doing this.
Right.
So I was wearing a nice fitted suit. I'm walking through the hood. So I'm like, fuck man. So I had to walk like this with my hand in my jacket, like I had a piece on me, so that way nobody thought I was a target. Because I knew, in that area, and this was also when that Trayvon Martin stuff happened, so it
Mm-hmm.
even made it worse.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like I really had to be on top of my game. So I'm like
Jeez.
trying to sell people office supplies, and like that's not the place to do it because like these people they're like they were just trying to get by.
Yeah.
Like, and I get it. Like, it was a very rough area. Like, they're just trying to, figure out how to keep their business open. They don't give a flying fuck about buying a new printer or anything. Like, dude, what are you doing here? It's like, I don't fucking know. They sent me out here.
Right.
Like, so that was an interesting experience. I did door-to-door sales, selling like vacation packages in Sacramento, California. Got chased by a dog once or twice, so that was
You were
fun.
out my son. This is where I'm at right now, Sacramento. So how long ago were you out here?
I went to a school called Wild Tech in Sacramento. In West Sacramento. Do you remember that school?
No, no. So like I'm relatively new to the area. My
Okay.
mom's been living here for 10 years. So like anyway, so you were out here for a minute.
Yeah, so I got out of the Navy, started dating a girl, and then we both moved up. She moved with me to Sacramento, and I went to a trade school called Wild Tech.
Gotcha.
So I'm a I'm a gearhead, I'm a car guy, so I wanted to learn how to work on cars.
Ah,
So my goal, like when I joined the military, is hey, me and my best friend from high school, we're gonna start a custom car shop. He went to a trade school, I went to the Navy, so I didn't have the college debt. Um, didn't end up happening for a lot of different reasons, but went to Sacramento for the school, and that's what brought me out there. And then partially into that, I noticed I'm like, okay, like I know how hard I've worked in the military. My knees are jacked up, my
mm,
back's screwed, my shoulders messed up. Just doing like the bodywork stuff. I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this for 20 to 30 years because like my shit's fucked. Like I've been able to kind of work around and get my body better, but I had to shift from doing manual labor to doing something that's more um less physical and maybe more mentally consuming because I'm like my body's not going to hold up to this for 20 years
yeah.
because like I don't want to be 50 years old and like not be able to move.
No, that's yeah. Is that was that the main motivation why you
Um
just were like, let's just dive into the sales thing and see what's up?
Truthfully, yeah, because like then was in Sacramento for a couple of years, couldn't find a job, had to leave. That was a fun shitstorm. So like I got out of school, the VA benefits stopped,
Yeah.
tried to find a job for whatever reason or not, couldn't get hired. Then I'm driving my Mustang.
What
Uh,
year?
the transmission blew, absolutely grenaded on me. So I have to move. I don't have a car anymore. Then to make it even worse, there was a place called the Mustang Shop in San Diego, California. They do a lot of cool shit with Mustangs, and like I had been pursuing them for 2 years while I was in school. 2 years, calling, emailing, reaching out to the like recruiting department at my school, just relentless pursuit of trying to get in there. So right after the transmission of my car blows, like literally 3 days after, this place calls me up and they're like, "Hey, we saw that blah 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 blah." I'm like, "Yeah, I've probably been a bit redundant, but I really want to come work for you guys because I like what you do. I'm very passionate about Mustangs, and it would be a dream come true to be able to work with you guys because they were very big, and it was like what I wanted to do. Because at that time, it was still like I could work here for a couple of years, learn the business, learn these things, and then go out there and kind of open my own thing, right? Because that was very much the intent back then. So they call me and they're like, "Hey, you can get a." They didn't want to hire me without seeing me. So funny enough, I actually sold myself into a job they didn't want to hire me into without ever meeting me, just by kind of like conveying it's like, no, like this is what I want to do, and it was. So like they're like, yeah, when can you come down? I was like, well, here's the thing. So I told them what I had going on. I was like, I'm trying to make things work. I was like, if you can give me a couple days to try to figure something out. I don't have a car right now. It literally just broke down like 2 days ago. I wish I was making this up, but I'm not. Let me see if I can find a place to live because I had some friends in San Diego still. Let me see if I can find a place to live. So then that way I can at least be down there and take the job, right? I mean, dude, if my car would have worked, I would have slept in my fucking car.
Sure.
Wouldn't have mattered. But I didn't have that option. So called everybody I knew. They either moved or weren't able to do it or they didn't have the space. So I'm like, well, fuck. So my dream job that I wanted after pursuing it for 2 to 3 years, I had to turn it down. And then that led into about 2 to 4, that led into about a 5 to 6, about a 3 year period of just trying to fight off a bankruptcy, trying to manage my bills and all this other stuff. Then, yeah, long story short, bankruptcy happened. So I've tried a lot of different things and I've done real estate sales. Real estate sales is really what got me into the sales space due to the
Mm,
freedom that it provided me
mm,
because I didn't have somebody telling me, hey, you got to show up at this time.
right.
It's like, well, no, like, hey, you don't get paid unless you don't sell a home. Or in my case, I didn't get paid unless I rented an apartment.
Right.
So it taught me like marketing, like how to generate my own leads because they didn't give me leads. I had to figure
Yeah.
that out. And it's funny, that's kind of that part of like having to do the lead generation and the marketing is actually what I've transitioned into. But at the time, I didn't notice that's really what I wanted to do. So I just kept with the sales thing. And then worked at a warehouse for a very large supplement company um, called Force Form. Learned a lot there, an amazing experience, but decided that I can't work for other people because I
Mm,
can play the game for a little bit of time, but then I'm like, all right, like I like inherently want to like build something and take full ownership of something, and it's hard to do that when you're like an employee of somebody else because it's like, all right, like we could do so many things to like try to make this better, or like have you thought of this? And when it gets discounted after a while, it's like, you know what, fuck this, I'm just gonna go do my own thing.
yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. You've always, since I've known you, you've always struck me as number one, a person who doesn't quit. No matter how many times you get hit in the nuts or punch in the mouth, that's the one thing that I took notice of you from the get go. Right? It's you and I have had some similar experiences where we just have gotten our asses beat for whatever reason, right? But we're like, yeah, fuck it, we're gonna keep going.
Yeah.
I think we're just too dumb to quit. And I want to wrap it up
Survival.
with, yeah, right, right. I want to wrap it up with one last question for you. Um, what is your favorite um, mindset book, self-development book? Like what's your go-to when you're fucking getting kicked in the nuts and punched in the mouth?
Hmm. That's a tough one, man. I think
Doesn't have
the
to, it could be a combination, doesn't have to be just one.
one game that really, or one game, one book that was really a game changer for me was a book by Napoleon Hill. It's called Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude. Um, that one, I started reading that when I was like leasing apartments, and I would read like a chapter a day. And that really kind of shifted a lot of like how I looked at things and the way that I thought. So that one's definitely up there. In terms of like most recent, when I was going through arguably the darkest time ever, like 2 or 3 years ago, when I absolutely obliterated my back working at Amazon, which is fun. You know a little bit about that story, but while I was there and I, couldn't work for a year essentially because of how bad my back was jacked up. David Goggins had his book "Can't Hurt Me," and that book was able to get me to look at. So it's like a combination of success through a positive mental attitude. David Goggins' book "Can't Hurt Me," and then another book that came out around the same time that Goggins' first book came out, "Laws of Human Nature" by David Robert Greene. Between those three books, I think have been the biggest because those have been like the biggest mindset shifts after reading them. Like David Goggins' one was like, "Hey, stop being a bitch, pull yourself up by the chin straps and get shit done." Like, could be way worse. It's like, dude, you listen to the beginning of that book, you're just like, oh my God, it's just ridiculous.
Goggins is a beast, dude.
Yeah,
Goggins is a
and like
beast.
law of human nature it forced me to look at specific things that I hadn't dealt with to where I'm like, oh, okay, that person wasn't being that specific way because they were being that specific way. It's because it's been a learned behavior over time.
Right. Yeah. The Robert Greene book's a good one. Robert Greene's just the books that he puts out. He's an interesting dude for sure.
Yeah, they're all
Yeah.
fire.
Bro, we could go on for another half hour. Definitely going to have you come back on because there's just still so much more to talk about. Well, we got to cover the Army Navy football game rivalry as well. Like, I typically don't give a shit about football, but when that game comes on, I got to fuck with all my Navy friends. So,
Yeah, but you guys are very, I mean, up until recently, you guys were getting clapped for
well,
like
that was
20
that.
years.
Yeah, well, shit happens. So,
Yeah, it definitely does.
all right, ladies and gentlemen, Nick Doria for episode number 6 of The Way of El Marco. Thanks for being on board, buddy. Really appreciate it. And anchors away, folks. Tell your grandma about it. Subscribe. I have no idea where the button is. Tell all your friends. And ladies and gentlemen, have a good one. How do I end the recording?